connected to channel MSec.
Ugh.
Twitch ads! Yay! Welcome back. Everything is ready to rebuild.
Agent 57 says. Didgery?
Didgery. Got 30% of my Claude usage for another hour, and then it resets. Got my cool broken hand. Please tell me this has a dark mode. Oh, my tests failed. Oh no, my code audit failed. I'll just give it a link to the code. Large code bases drag or drop the front end. Not used design yet, so this should be interesting. See if I can make it look better than it currently does. Make it low. Doesn't have my pass key, but yeah. want to improve the UI UX of Ever. So it provides a top tier bad at typing with one hand. Which screen should I redesign? All. Or decide for me. What's the biggest UX problem?
Pilfer says.
How did I break my shoulder? I was cycling in December. And,
how the F did you break your shoulder?
I went over a curb.
And 4, open a packet of Jaffa cakes wrong.
I hit a curb that was about that high. And the back wheel kind of spun round.
I was cycling.
Yeah.
That serves you right.
Yeah, the back wheel span. And then as it span, my backpack slid off my left arm, went down my right arm, and it just pulled the whole ball out of the socket. So it was all floppy, and then I reattached it, just grabbed my arm and sucked it back in. But it's just been
Agent
constantly.
57 says. WTF. Translated from German.
It's been constantly what's the fucking word? Dislocating.
Pilfer says. Oh, so you dislocated it.
Yeah, so I had an MRI done, and the cartilage between the ball and the socket had flapped off.
Agent 57 says.
Sorry, only just woke up and was making a coffee. I didn't see the stream yet. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, so they reattached the cartilage that had torn to try and stabilise my shoulder again. I had a nerve block injected in yesterday, so my whole arm, my arm, my fingers, my hand, elbow, all of it, I just couldn't move. I couldn't feel any pain either, which was nice.
When did you do this?
December. And I've got the Class A drugs, oral morphine. That's keeping me going. But yeah, it's pretty brutal, but
Pilfer says. Oh Jesus. That's a rough one. Do they prescribe Physio Plus exercise to strengthen the muscles in the area and help prevent it from popping out again?
Yeah, I got to do that in 2 weeks. So I literally only had the operation yesterday, so.
Nice. Do what the PT says.
Hell yeah.
Agent 57 says.
Good that you are getting better, buddy.
Yeah, oh, the best thing is I've got 3 weeks off work now, so just need to chill out and see if I can play video games with one hand. Or I could do that, I guess. But yeah, I've got a whole week's worth of Claude tokens to burn, so we'll get rid of those first, and then I'll have to upgrade to a paid subscription. I've got a few projects that I've been trying to finish, so once I've got this upload form working, I'm gonna move on to this bad boy, and then probably have another crack at this. So if anyone remembers this, when I made this is like a Twitch bot that will connect to your stream, and then people can run commands like exec, kill my shell, and that will...
I didn't even know you was having an OP.
Pilfer says, my wife is a doctor of physical therapy and she says people who don't do what she says have garbage outcome measures. Agent 57 says,
LFG. 3 weeks off.
Hell yeah! It might get increased to 6. They've got to see in 3 weeks if I need more time. So yeah. If we can get 6 weeks off, that'd be grand. What's this? I wasn't doing deployments.
Pilfer says, are you a hacker? What does this mean? EU91A1C3QGBG9ZDCB0AGUG2FTZQ equals? I think it's some kind of encryption.
It does
Agent
look.
57
It looks like
says,
some kind of encryption.
Yeah, you deserve 6 weeks. S.
We find out. Let's see what you said. You just lost the game. I did. I did lose the game.
Pilfer says, well, now seeing you do that one-handed made it even better. Die.
Let's bring that back for a second.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
So yeah, it'd be cool to get this working again. I wanted to, well, it did work. It works locally. I was trying to get it to do like an AWS deployment, so I could just host it in the cloud and then never have to worry about starting it. And then when it's cloud-based, people could just go to a site and like connect their Twitch account, and then you could use it as well.
Data says,
Oh.
So yeah, it'd be cool to get this working again. And then if I let Claude,
Agent 57 says,
Data rules.
if I let Claude just build out a load of new features in this, this should be pretty OP.
Data says,
SimCam upgrade I see.
Hell yeah! We've got the broken arm upgrade. And then this was just an idea I had, so I could I wanted to make a POC for exfiltrating data through a QR code. So there was one, I don't know if it linked it. Yeah, there we go. This one I saw. I thought I'll see if anyone's got, and like if they've had this idea before. So someone did something similar, where you take a file, you run it through this program, and it will give you a list of QR codes that you then print, and then you scan them in later on, and then run it through the program again, and it will give you the files back. But some of the PDFs, like, you could have fucking hundreds of QR codes. So I thought, rather than do that, I'll just give them something on screen that you could put on the air gap network. And technically, as an air gap, it would be a network like layer, like an RDP service. And then I saw this guy had done something similar to that. So he does the same sort of thing, but he does this. He creates this like dynamic QR code where it just flickers through loads of versions. Get it out of the way of my head. So we could do this. We could create like, you upload a file, it will like put a little screen up that just spams through QRs for each, like, what do we want to, like a block of data, and then we'll add in like a number that we can track if they arrive out of order, and then on the other end you set up a screen capture that will capture this, and then it will, through the screen, pull the data through to the attacker network. So this would be sick if you've got like a Citrix workstation, RDP, VNC, if you've got like a DLP thing on it, so you can't exfiltrate data through the network, but you could exfiltrate data through the screen, and there would be no way of logging it either, unless they're logging everything you're doing on your monitor, which I doubt. So yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to like create this thing. I've already scoped out what we're going to do.
Agent 57 says,
LFG.
And then we'll see how we can run it. So the only thing that you'd struggle with is getting the client, or not the server component, into the system you're running it in. But I mean, if they've got access to public GitHub, and you can just clone the repo, build it locally, or run Python, like that's all you need. So yeah, so we can see if there's like other server side examples we could create. We could create like a Rust one, or just a Windows executable or something. We'll see if there's multiple ways that we can send the QRL. But yeah, client side is piss because you control it, so you just watch something on a screen. But yeah, it looked fun. Fun little idea.
Yeah, and stick it inside a Ducky script so it's plug and play
Yeah.
for dummies too.
Yeah, so you just go to the network, plug your thing in, and it will start doing its thing. And then you'd have to get some way of having your, like the thing you're listening to, you'd have to have screen access. But yeah, if you work from home, it's quite a cool way of exfiltrating data from your like employer, which would be quite sick. Right, so this is passing now.
Then they just record on their phone.
Oh, you could. Yeah, you could actually. Yeah, we could do a phone component. So you just like hold your phone screen up to it, and then yeah, you just record, save the files on your phone, and then run away. Right, we got an ad starting in 3 minutes.
Run.
Run. I had that as a sound alert, I swear. That's my... I still got it. Just... I'm in IP hacking. No, how did I get rid of it? Got rid of run.
Run.
That again. Oh, you don't do that through a command, you do it through the sound alert panel below. Should be there now. Yeah.
Run.
Hydrate. Oh, lucky you. I've got some Scottish drink. We got 7 minutes for ads, so I'll sort that out with one arm while you watch the ads.
IRNBRE.
Translated from Indonesian.
I have one of my colleagues is from Scotland, and I took a bottle of this into work once, and he was like, I was gloating about the fact I had Iron Brew on me,
For run.
and he was like, oh, but it is Iron Brew Zero, so he was calling me out for not having the full Iron Brew. Well, in another hour it will be Iron Brew and morphine.
It does need to be the full fat version.
Right. So what I've done with this, so I had or maybe I'll chat in a minute once the ads are over.
MSec says. Wait for ads to end and you'll say what I've added. Agent 57 says.
The ads are not on for me. Don't know about the others.
Ah, fair. You must have ad block on. Where's my ad revenue?
Nope, my VPN is off button.
Oh, that reminds me. I should have that VPN sponsorship come through now. But I think that means we're back. Yeah. Yeah. So
UK version of Twitch's diff for ads. They are popping up around the screen during the stream.
oh yeah, I think it does both. It will do videos sometimes, and then other times it will just do the hey, buy this product. But yeah, everything's working now. So it'll do. There was one thing where my first iteration was only grabbing 4 frames, and the detection was a bit shit. So I upped the number of frames it takes to 10, and then I had to refactor everything to account for the fact there was 10 frames. But it will now account for n number of frames, so if I change this in the future, it will just handle however many there is. Then what did we? I separated the worker, so like the back end worker is completely separate now from the Django, so it will run in its own Docker. And then that caused a load of issues because it couldn't the file upload, because it's handled through this page. Django controlled it, and then Django was writing it with a permission that the worker didn't have. So when the worker extracted frames from the video, it couldn't override or like save anything back into the report folder. So that's fixed. And then the AI analysis works, the vehicle lookup works, the processing works. But then this is the only bit I'm stuck on. So I added a new feature that it will grab insurance. So it will go to Ask Mid, and then for your own vehicle you can check this for free. Otherwise you've got to pay £10 for every vehicle you look up. So fuck that. Just like created a massive proxy bot. So we've got Proxifly, which has like 100 proxies on it. WebShare has 10, I think. Oxylabs has like another 10. Proxy Scrape has like 100 odd. Spy1 has like another like 100 odd proxy servers, and it would just try like all of them. I did have Tor, but Tor was getting blocked, so all the exit nodes were blocked. So yeah, so hopefully this bit it's just done will fix the insurance check. So if I run it now, you'll see all of this will grey out, and then the worker should be processing it. So it tries to find the bits it needs to plug in, fills in the VRM, submits it, and there we go. So it's insured. So it is working. It's working through the proxy. Went through a WebShare proxy, and we've got an insured vehicle. And then I've added more filters to this, so you can just search by like ones I haven't checked. So we got 7 to go, so I can just get these done now. But yeah, if I tried running the web scraper directly, it would only let you do like 3 lookups. So hopefully the proxy avoids that by just routing everything through the proxy. And we should be able to just trigger them all. So we just trigger. And then we can watch this catch fire. But yeah, we've got another one. They actually changed the website on me as well. So like the first iteration of this site, they had like a stylized yaw, so it was in like handwritten drawing, and then they added in. Can't see it because my face is there. Me. So yeah, they had this, and then as you fill this in, it checks here. So this check wasn't there before, so I had to add more options to kind of handle the VIN. TH1, 2. So yeah, now these both check, and then you could check your vehicle. So fix that. And then insurance scraper. So you'll see now I tried to like make it a bit more generic as well. So it was looking for that. So there's a DOM object with the data test ID. And then I just tried to make it like look for the wording. And it would just try and
They're just messing with you, making you do extra work to access their records. They are onto you.
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully it will be more like dynamic now. So if they change it in the future, as long as it still has the word accept, or I accept all, accept cookies, like if it sees that and it'll try and click it, like personal check, personal, like it will just look for those words rather than like specific things now. So hopefully it'll be more or less prone to fucking up. Like it will look for a button with a checkbox, it will look for a div with a checkbox, a span with a checkbox, like any of these things that it could be, it'll try them. But yeah, I mean, it seems to work. We haven't been blocked yet. It's done 1, 2.
I was building out a do not
3,
accept cookies extension for Chrome and
4,
Firefox.
5, 6, 7, 8. It's done 8 vehicles. That should be all of them. We can refresh. Any that haven't been checked. None of them. So yeah, so we got them all. So we know that is working. And then we can go to the dashboard. And that should show that they're all insured. Yeah. We've got an MOT that wasn't looked up. We can go back to report. MOT that isn't checked. Or failed. Expired. Weird, okay. More results. This one. You were building out a do not accept cookies extension. Those already exist. I think there's quite a few of those that like the thing's already been solved. Could be this one if it's done. Which one does it think isn't? Oh no, they've all got MOTs taxed. So there's one that isn't taxed. That makes sense. Tax status not checked. It's this one. And I think this one is fucked because it doesn't return any data. If I do like refresh vehicle lookup. I think the DVLA just doesn't have it. Yeah, vehicle data could not be found. So for whatever reason that isn't tracked for tax. I guess we could add that explicitly. So if that's the result. Oh, this looks nicer. Look at that. So 46. So report 46. Tax status is what's that? Deity. Vehicle details cannot be found. And then that should fix the dashboard.
Data says.
Web link.
Yeah, nice. Is this a free game? Oh, Mouse PI. I did see this. I don't know if it's my sort of game though. It looks like a three-dimensional version of Cuphead. Right, I want to see what Claude thinks I should do to make this better. Oh, it looks so good. Oh, it's got a step thing at the top. And breadcrumbs, proper breadcrumbs. And it makes that look nicer. Oh, it lets you do a new report from that screen as well, that's nice. Filter. Guess it misses a few filters there, but I might need to add them through this PR first, so let's finish the PR request now that that's working. And oh, what did it fail on? Yeah, we could just upgrade some of the dependencies to shut that up. What was the Twitch game? Not not Twitch. What was the Epic Games thing today? Hogwarts Legacy, you motherfuckers! Why doesn't that show up in the list? You had like... That's already in my library. This is new. Odd Sparks, an automation adventure. Sounds like my game. But it said at Hogwarts is free as well. Yeah, it's free! After I spent 20 quid on it. There we go. Go grab Hogwarts Legacy for free.
MSec says. Web link.
Share it on YouTube as well. There we go. Go grab. But yeah, I fucking love what this has done. It looks so much better. Police handoff, direct to enforcement. Like condense these little cards down. View my report. Oh, it's lost the map actually. Where's the map gone? Salary workers failed as well. What's that for? No tests ran. Eh? Installed all of the dependencies. If cache is not found.
Data sets.
Yeah, same. I bought it for like £14, like last time it was on sale.
Too bad I already have it.
Yeah. Always the way. That's why I hold off on buying a lot of games now. Just wait till they're free. They'll come to Prime Gaming or Epic at some point. Although, it'd be interesting to see what they do with Prime Gaming now that fucking Luna's dropping its third-party support. I'm pretty sure that's how I was playing, that's how I played Hogwarts. On the 10th of April, Luna will no longer offer game stores. How did that use 50% of my core design credits just by
Agent
loading
57
GitHub?
says,
I bought World of Haiku a few years back on Steam, and then not long after my first run through and completing it, they took it off and made it pay to play.
That's good though. If you already had it, usually you still keep it when it goes to paid.
Think it is £20 per month, and that is what I paid for a total.
Yeah. Or is it forcing you to do the subscription now? Because usually the free-to-play ones, when they go paid, you keep it.
They want me to sub now.
Oh, that's gay. Fuck that. Yeah, I'm getting my $20
It has
for
been fully removed from Steam. I
playing
cannot
this
play
piece
it
of
at
shit.
all now. Full BS.
We've had no one install the game. We've had no one reach level 3. We've had no one purchase a $2 pack. But we're still getting $20. That's what we like to see. This one's quite good, the VPN one. At least that's relevant to a cyber channel. Start like telling everyone to sign up to a VPN.
Agent 57 says,
Is Express good though?
Probably not.
How good are they, dude?
Well, they're not sponsoring me yet, so they might be shit. When they're sponsoring me, they'll be the best VPN I've ever used. And everyone should buy it immediately.
I bet.
I did like in the terms it says you're not allowed to mention other VPNs as well. It's like,
Sell the VPN.
where is it? Do the brief. Do not tell everyone it's a free VPN.
What if chat mention others?
I mean, that's fine, it's just I'm not allowed to. Restrictions, yeah. Do not urge viewers to make multiple accounts.
What if we make you?
Do not promote other VPN brands. Oh no, or other brands in general. So yeah, other VPNs are not available. You have to just get this one. Alright. Well, the API tests worked. They ran. Did they run from the right place?
$80 for every 1 year sub bought?
Yeah. If it's like $40 for a year, I could buy everyone VPNs and then make my money back.
What if we do monthly?
I don't know. I don't know what the... You have to get 10... Oh no, that's what you get if you get 10 people to subscribe. So if you get one person, you make $80. But you have to subscribe to a long-term plan, which is 12 months, or a 2-year plan. If the subscription is refunded under 30 days, it doesn't count. How much is it? Let's have a look. What's the...
Jeez.
I don't have a VPN, so I could actually get one. $12-month plan. Get Pro. £104 for the year with the top tier option. It's not too bad. Does it matter which option people get? I don't know if it says, like, what's the... Shout out. Oh, you get 4 months extra as well. The new Pro plan allows you for 14 simultaneous connections. To purchase any package. Okay, yeah, so they can get whatever they want. A 12 or a 2-year, then you get 4 months extra. You can connect 16 devices on the Pro. Yeah, not bad. 100 quid for a year. It's probably, that's the first subscription, oh, not the first sponsorship that hasn't been shit. Like, it's always like shitty mobile game, shitty mobile game, shitty mobile game, shitty mobile game. Oh, shitty mobile game and shitty free money survey app. Like, they've all been just shitty things, and then this is like an actual product. So, like, the more of these things that this site gets, the better. So I don't want to be telling people to download shitty games. So, run Django tests. Oh, they ran from the manage.py, so maybe it's just a root that needs to fix. Where is this? Adds Python. That should fix that. And then my dependencies were fucked. So, Pillow. Pillow has a CVE. So we need to upgrade to 12.2. Might as well grab the best one. What's the latest one? .12.2. Okay, so that's the latest. So Django violence below. Just give that to Claude. I got another 20 minutes before the resets, so I can do my work. Schlepping. Listen to the latest risky bids.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Risky Business. My name's Patrick Gray. We've got a fabulous show for you this week. Mr. Adam Boileau is still travelling and not here with us at the moment, so we have a special guest co-host, which is Mr. Dmitry Alperovich, who will be joining me and James Wilson in just a moment to talk through the week's security news. Dmitry, of course, many, many years ago was the co-founder of CrowdStrike, but these days he is the chairman of the Silverado Policy Accelerator, a Washington, D.C. based think tank. But he is still very much someone who pays attention to events in cyber, so he's graciously agreed to join us to do this week's show, which he does sometimes, and we sure do appreciate it. This week's show is brought to you by Trail of Bits, which is a security engineering firm based in the United States. And Dan Guido will be joining us this week to talk through private inference. So he did a talk at Unprompted a while ago, and one of the interesting things he said was he wasn't really that keen on buying hardware for Trailer Bits to use to do private, like to run local models and do it privately, when you can actually just basically rent private inference hardware, as a service, right? And I thought, that's an interesting topic for a conversation. So he's joining us this week in this week's sponsor interview to talk through how that works. There's like Tinfoil SH is one of the services that they use, but they also did some work looking at WhatsApp's private inference approach. And it's just generally an interesting topic. So that is coming up after this week's news, which starts now. And Dmitry, we're going to start with you. It's really funny, man, because we've got, we've had guest co-hosts the last couple of weeks, and the topics just keep miraculously lining up with whoever we've scheduled to be our guest co-host. Like last week we had Grok, and there was all this Grocky sort of stuff to talk about. And this week there's all this sort of very much Dmitry Alperovich. Yeah, exactly, right? It was meant to be. So we're going to start with this first item here, which is the State Department kicking up a huge stink about distillation attacks against frontier models in the United States. So they're saying that DeepSeek are a bunch of dirty thieving scoundrels, and it will not stand. And what's the go here?
Well, not just the State Department. This is really an all-of-government approach. Michael Kratsios, who heads the Office of Science and Technology at the White House, also put out a memo to all the executive agencies that they released publicly. Look, this is a big deal, and I'm glad that the government is now paying attention to this. I've talked to a number of frontier companies and their researchers. They actually believe that most of the progress that you're seeing currently from the main Chinese AI models, Kimi, DeepSeek, Qwen, is actually coming from two things. It's coming from distillation of U.S. models and obviously smuggling of or even buying legitimately of NVIDIA chips that you use to do this post-training. And by the way, post-training is now becoming...
Hey, whoa, hey, how dare you suggest that? I mean, the Chinese trained these things on a bunch of old, like, 486s they had lying around in a gut. Right. They trained them on a potato, Dimitri. What are you talking about? That's crazy talk.
As we know, potatoes are fantastic at matrix multiplication, so they're just perfect for training this stuff. Yeah, no, look, I mean, as we know, even the Chinese AI researchers are saying that they're training on NVIDIA chips. Now they're claiming that they're buying them legitimately, but this is not a secret. But look, what's actually really important is that if you talk to frontier AI companies here in the U.S., they will tell you that post-training is becoming really, really important and is driving most of the improvements in models today. So it makes sense that if you steal a bunch of reasoning traits from our models and then use them for post-training, that the Chinese AI models would become quite good. Still behind us, but behind in a matter of months, which makes sense, right? New Opus 4.7 comes out. They do a bunch of distillation attacks on it, and then 3 to 6 months later, oh my God, a new Kimi model is out. That's really good. I wonder where that came from.
Yeah. I mean, we also saw the news, like we got a bit of insight into how some of this chip smuggling is happening, right? Where the Supermicro co-founder, personally assisting in like using a hairdryer to remove labels from hardware, to stick them on other boxes and whatever, to move this stuff into China. I feel like the restrictions on chips are only ever going to be so successful, and the best you're ever going to do is slow the Chinese down. Now, you did some testimony to the US government. We'll get into that in a minute on this topic. Your testimony was on this topic, but James, you've actually recorded and will publish today a 75-minute deep dive solo podcast on distillation attacks. And I think the conclusion that you arrived at when going through this exercise was that really the America's edge in the AI war really does come down to compute. It comes down to who has the most hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really interesting deep dive that I did, Pat, because it surfaced that. It also surfaced that, distillation is not just for attackers. This is a legitimate technique that's actually used in training. But for an adversary, it's such a delicious economic sweet spot. You can take these freely available open weight models and with a relatively small data set compared to the massive data set you'd need for an actual frontier model to be trained, you end up with some really high quality results and results on smaller models as well. So that does help with the fact that when you're limited in your compute and your RAM, you can still run these things. But yes, everything's converging, everything's becoming commoditized, but the thing that still remains the huge limiting factor is getting the access to the GPUs and increasingly the RAM that's needed to host these models for the inference.
Now, when we describe people as dovish or hawkish. I sometimes describe Dimitri as being less of a hawk and more of a pterodactyl when it comes to topics like this. You gave some testimony recently. Was it a Senate or a congressional committee?
It was the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, okay. So I'm guessing you went there and said, hey, it's fine. We should sell the Chinese our hardware. They're our friends, right? Was that basically what you said to them?
Look, I basically said that, we're in an AI race. No one is disputing that. The last time we were in a great power race was a space race, and selling chips to China is akin to selling rockets to the Soviet Union to get to the moon faster, right? It just makes no sense whatsoever, and Chairman Molinar actually asked me, well, what about this argument that NVIDIA uses that they'll get addicted to our chips? And I said, Chairman, with all due respect, chips ain't cocaine. They're not that addictive. And look, the top 2 frontier AI models right now, Claude and Gemini, were not even trained on NVIDIA chips. They moved off of NVIDIA very, very quickly. I'm told it was a matter of about 10 people in a couple of months to actually port to TPUs in the case of Google, Trainiums in the case of Claude. So this is not something that you can actually get them to be addicted to. And the talking points from folks like Jensen and others is, well, wait, we want China to use the American AI stack. And my view is American AI tech stack is not chips. If you want to talk about the tech stack, it's chips in American cloud providers running American models. That's the tech stack. But selling China chips so that they can steal reasoning traits from American cloud models, AI models, and then use it to train their own models that will be running in Huawei data centers, that's not winning. And I actually had a little bit of a debate with Sriram, who is the now, I guess, acting AI czar, now that David Sachs has moved on in the White House, on X, where I said, imagine the situation where we actually get China addicted to NVIDIA chips, which is impossible, but let me just suppose that they would. And they train the very, very best models. And the entire world is running on Kimi or DeepSeek, and applications are built on top of them, but they're all running on NVIDIA chips. Did we win? Is that what victory looks like? Of course not. It's all about the models, not the chips.
I think also the argument that, well, if you restrict chips from China, they're just going to start developing their own. I mean, that's a heavy lift. I think for people who are really deep in the semiconductor space, that is a heavy lift.
Well, by the way, they're doing that anyway. And most of them, this is a story that should be getting more publicity, but it's not. So they have the Huawei Ascend chips, right, that are not even equivalent to the Blackwells in any shape or form. It's similar to the H20 from NVIDIA, but not even as good as that. But most of the Ascend chips were not made in China. They were actually made by TSMC, who was kind of conned by a shell company to build them for Huawei. And of course, that's now hopefully been stopped. So they can't even manufacture these chips when they design them. By the way, one other point on distillation, to come back to that topic, this is why, and many of the listeners probably have noticed that, when you go to Claude, when you go to ChatGPT, you no longer see the chain of thoughts details that you used to see on these particularly deep research type of experiments. This is why, because they know that their models are being distilled. If you show all that information, it helps a lot for China to actually catch up quickly.
Well, James and I were chatting about that way, and your opinion on that, James, was it helps a little more than a lot, right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, look, it makes sense why they've done it, but there is just so many other signals that are still going to be there to distill these models, and so yeah, it helps a little, but it certainly hasn't closed the door on distillation. And just to really bring into focus that point Dimitri made about the, are the chips the thing that people get addicted to? One of the things I covered in the pod that's coming out today is that the actual act of distilling a model is about 10 lines of Python code. Like, this is so well embedded into frameworks and existing tooling that you could imagine that there is only probably one line in that 10-line Python script that would have to change to move from an NVIDIA chip to a GPU from anywhere else. And so it's just not, we're thinking about this wrong. We're thinking about it as there's some sort of incredible level of engineering that directly hard ties the training process and inference process to a particular hardware vendor. But we're not. It's all been modularized and abstracted away. And so I completely agree. It's easy to move.
Now, James, look, there is some validity to the fact that PyTorch, one of the common frameworks, is more optimized for CUDA and NVIDIA. That is true, but, TPU code has been in there for many years now. More optimizations are being done. And look, every single frontier company, every single hyperscaler is building their own chips, right? Maya from Microsoft, Facebook is building their own chips. OpenAI is claiming that they're going to do their own chips. Obviously, TPUs from Google. So it's not like NVIDIA has a monopoly on this. I mean, this is matrix multiplication. Sure, you do it in a very parallelized way. You integrate high band memory, but I actually think, you guys may correct me on this, but building a TPU is actually a lot easier than building a CPU, where you have to do all the branch prediction stuff and deep cache integration, all that stuff. Here, you're just optimizing for really, really fast really huge matrix multiplication.
Yeah, that is exactly right. It is simpler because of the tasks it do, kind of like the difference between the complex instruction set versus RISC and the reduced instruction set. And this is reduced even further because it really just does come down to matmul. But there's other challenges around just the memory bandwidth. Parallelization in computer science has always been one of those really difficult things alongside naming things. But yeah, the sort of crux of your point is right there.
Now, just for everyone listening at home, this is what happens when you ask Dmitry Alperovich, hey man, what do you think about chips?
A little bit of a passion project.
Yeah, we're going to kick on to the next part of this discussion, which is you've mentioned the Kimi model a couple times. Now, this is interesting because James and I, we actually interviewed Nicholas Carlini from Anthropic. He's the security researcher at Anthropic, and we published that into our Risky Business Features feed because there's no room in the main feed for this. So if you want to hear these sort of podcasts, listeners, please go and subscribe to Risky Business Features. It is a completely different podcast feed, and this is also where James's solo pod all about the distillation stuff is going. Now, the reason we're going to talk about Kimi just now is it's relevant to a bunch of stuff that we talked about with Nicholas in that in last week's podcast, James. Chiefly, he was talking about how Mythos might be big and scary now, but like this sort of capability will probably be in a model you can run locally on your laptop in a year from now. And I guess the reason I wanted to talk about Kimi now is because they've done some really interesting stuff in terms of making the model very efficient at performing certain tasks by being able to sort of selectively load parts of it, right? Which makes Nicholas Carlini's claim about what these local models might be capable of, either on your own hardware or on something like Tinfoil SH, which we're chatting about with Dan Guido later. The point is these local models are going to get a lot more powerful. Can you just tell us a little bit about the innovation here? Because the Chinese, we saw it with DeepSeek and now we're seeing it with Kimi, they are innovating in their own ways in AI, and this is a good example of that.
Yeah, 100%. So let's cover Kimi and also Qwen, because these are the two sort of leading models out there in the open weight space.
Shit. I use
Kimi's
that
interesting
myself.
because they've just come out with K2.6.
Yeah,
and
I use that. It was shit.
It follows in the pattern of DeepSeek, which uses this thing called mixture of experts. So Kimi K2.6 is a 1 trillion parameter model, which is vastly too big to even fit or to run efficiently on sort of a laptop or even the most beefed up Mac Studio. But you can see the trajectory that they're heading towards through these innovations, because although it's a 1 trillion parameter model, only about 32 billion of those parameters is active at any one time. And so if this continues in this direction, we're going to see this very nice balance between the model is huge in terms of the overall capabilities it's got, but it's able to then zero in on certain parts of the model, activate those at that point in time to keep inference far more efficient. The other end of the spectrum that's interesting here is Qwen, which is another Chinese model. This is from Alibaba. And they focus more on models that are actually manageable size for local deployment. So they've got models available at the moment that are, I think there's one that's 27 billion parameters, one that's 35 billion parameters. And the benchmarks basically say these are approaching those frontier model capabilities in agentic coding and a few other tasks. And to put that in perspective, like I've got a Mac Studio M2, 32 gig of RAM. I can run a Qwen 32 or 27 billion parameter model on that locally. The catch here is, though, these models are still incredibly slow compared to a hosted Anthropic model. Like you're talking about 400 to 1,000 seconds for something that takes 20 seconds with Claude.
Yeah.
And they're also an order of magnitude more inefficient with their token use. But sort of to what Dimitri was saying there, this is optimization, right? We've cleared the hurdle of this is possible, and now we're just in optimization. And there's one thing we know about optimization. It just keeps getting better and better over time. So yes, local running models with frontier capabilities coming real soon and kind of already here.
Yeah, so I think that was really an interesting part of that interview. Dimitri, you and I, we've known each other a long time. We're good friends, right? Like our friendship, I best describe it as an argument that started in about 2019 and is still continuing. You're really an AI pumper, right? Like you've been big on AI very early, way ahead of me. I think largely you've been proven right.
Codex
that said, with Mythos, you think some of the hype around Mythos is not entirely justified. So I guess the the idea
things.
that we might start seeing similar capabilities in local models might not be that frightening to you. Just a quick take from you on Mythos and what you think it means, because it's been such a big topic and we've got you here.
Well, look, first of all, and I think Nicholas on your podcast talked really well about this. You know, the big difference with Mythos is the exploit generation, right? It is better at finding vulnerabilities, but look, other models have been able to find vulnerabilities as well, right? It's not like we woke up today and Mythos suddenly can find all these vulnerabilities that no one else could discover. It's incrementally better, and, you know, my guess is probably, and I haven't played with it, but I've talked to many people that have, maybe 30% better than, you know, the Opus 4.7, for example. But it is able to write exploits. But, you know, from what I've heard, even that capability is hit or miss. Like simpler exploits, sure, but anytime you need to sort of like, you know, do an iPhone 0 day that chains lots of things together, that becomes much, much harder. It is able to do it. You know, what I hear from my friends at Anthropic is that if you're spending the equivalent of $100,000 on tokens, sure, you can probably generate some pretty cool exploits. I mean, very few people, companies can afford that much, right? So on this level of experimentation and driving it that deep, so Mythos is incredibly expensive, which is, you know, yet another reason why it won't be available publicly. And by the way, you know, that really helps with distillation, right? If Chinese cannot get their hands on this model, we'll see how good Kimi is in 6 months and whether it can actually catch up with where Mythos is today.
Yeah, I thought actually Carlini's argument that the cost thing is kind of irrelevant was the more compelling part of the interview, where he's like, look, you know, it's getting cheaper. Some of the dollar figures around the tokens required to do these things have been misreported. So I thought that part was pretty interesting. But yeah, anyway, it's an interesting thing, right? Because no one quite knows where all of this is 100% going. But look, speaking of Mythos, there was a big story. It was breaking kind of as we were preparing last week's show. I didn't think it was that important to cover, but it's been everywhere, which is a group of people in a Discord figured out how to get access to Mythos when they weren't on the like approved list of people who could use it. The reason I thought this story was funny is completely different, I'm guessing, to the reason most people thought this story was interesting. The reason I thought it was interesting is Anthropic totally hung themselves on their own messaging here, because they come out and talk about how dangerous it is, right? So obviously when you find out someone got access to it who wasn't supposed to, like, people are going to think that's a big deal, when honestly it's not. Was that your take here, James?
Yeah, 100%.
And then they just
it's just funny
assumed that
reading
it
this
was
as
like,
well,
instead of
like
Opus would be
a bunch of shady Discord
like,
people, and they
would be Mythos, and then they were able to download the
used a
model.
data breach at Mercor to sort of rifle through some logs and sort of found the URL patterns, and well, actually not even the URL. I think that bit's been completely misreported. It's looking at the payload of the message transcript that goes back and forth with Anthropic, and they just basically guessed, hey, you know, the pattern for naming a model is pretty standard with Anthropic. It's the name, it's the version, it's the date, and they must have just, you know, put a few things together and determined, oh, this is what Mythos is called and the number, and had access to it. There's also a little ... on the story around how the other part of this that made it possible is apparently they had, or one of them was working with an Anthropic contractor. I do wonder if that's soon to be former Anthropic contractor, but they had some sort of creds that probably gave them the ability to access models that were, you know, hosted in Anthropic but not yet publicly available. But overall, yeah, I agree with you. It's like, if the model's that dangerous, you kind of think there would have been a few more safeguards or things around it.
Yeah, but it's like marketing meeting reality, right? And it's just a funny old thing. Like, you know, they've built a computer god in a box but can't do ACLs. You know, like, it is just such a classic in the genre of InfoSec stories.
Security is now in
moving
public
on real
beta
quick, we're going to
for
talk quickly
enterprise
about,
customers.
I don't think this is going to be quick, actually. I lie. We're going to talk now about Fast 16, which is some malware. It was, I think, Sentinel-1 research here. It was Vitaly Kamluk, which is a name I haven't heard in a while. He's an ex-Kaspersky guy. And Jags, Juan Andreas Guerrero Sad, which I guess is why he goes by Jags a lot of the time. Sorry for massacring your name, dude. They have done a bit of research into this malware that kind of connects to shadow brokers in an interesting way. Dimitri, tell us about Fast 16.
Well, this is, I guess, a 10-year-old mystery that they were focused on solving. So people may recall the Shadow Brokers release back 10 years ago. allegedly from the NSA, and it contained, in addition to a bunch of malware and other things, it contained this file that was called Territorial Dispute, which basically had a list of various kernel drivers and other identifiers that you would check when you land on a box to see if someone else is already there. So it could be like other Five Eyes malware, other malware you know about, and you basically wanted to make sure there's no kind of friendly fire. If you're also on there and they get detected, then suddenly you get detected as well, so you can kind of decide what you want to do from a deconfliction perspective at that point. And there was one line in that file that just said, FAST16 driver, kernel driver, move on, nothing to see here. And that was it, right? And no one knew, what APT is this? Like, why is it saying that? That seems like a really interesting thing. And Jags and Vitaly have been looking for this FAST16, elusive FAST16 driver for years now. And the way they found it is really, really interesting. They actually use a technique from another Kaspersky researcher called Sergei Minayev, who actually passed recently, I think last month, who was like this unbelievable APT hunter who had all these ideas of how you look through a huge repository of data, telemetry, or malware to find interesting stuff. And what they did is they started looking at binaries and integrated Lua interpreter, because they said, wait a second, we see this Duku malware and other malware that integrates Lua. Let us look at all binaries from like 2000 to 2010 timeframe that integrate Lua interpreters, right? And then weed out all the legitimate stuff and see what else we can find. And they stumbled on this file that eventually led them to this FAST16 kernel driver that basically was compiled in 2005 based on its compilation date, and is a really interesting malware because it spreads itself via network shares, and then it hooks into Windows file read operation, so that it can look for new executables that get loaded.
Watching a podcast, which is the listening link. So they're just talking about FAST16, which is like a malware group tied to Stuxnet. And I'm also building an app that will let you report parking offences with
you British,
AI.
Mate?
I am, mate. You sound like you're from London. A bottle of water.
Am not from London, but near.
Fair. Yeah, I've just made this site so you can like report parking issues and people parking or like driving illegally, and then it uses AI. So like if I uploaded a video,
You going to sell this to the gov?
hopefully, then it will, like, if I get a...
Shit. That's cool.
Yeah. It's like Dorset police have this shitty Operation Snap site. So they make you fill all this shite in, but then the witness statement is this like randomly growing box, so as you type it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just terrible. It doesn't pinpoint the location, so you've got to fill all this in first, like who you are, where it was, what road it was on, the date, the time, the registration, and then right at the bottom you've got the upload. So mine, you start with the upload, it will automatically grab when and where it was.
What did you make the site with? What high?
So I made it with Django.
Oh, mouth, that box is fucking shite.
Yeah, I made it with, so this is just a React front end with a Django back end. And then I've used AI. So it started off as a non-AI project. And then I revived it the other day and just threw Claude at it. So, where's my GitHub?
looks good, brother.
So it used to be in a repo called what was it? The car reporting AI project, or crap. But yeah, it was just like a really shit attempt.
Have you sold websites to people before? Is this your first time?
I've made websites, I've not sold them before. Well, that's not true. I've sold like just crappy ones saying like, I'm a carpenter and this is like the area I work in. But yeah, so like I had like a license plate recognition app. But yeah, this was all done like before ChatGPT was a thing, and now we're like in the Claude Code era. So I've just decided to like amp it up. So it's kind of like on steroids now. The whole thing has been split into things. So the back end handles the API. Then if there's asynchronous tasks, or rather synchronous async. Basically, if there's like a background task that needs to happen, it'll do that in the background with celery workers and message queues. So when you are sat there waiting for uploads and stuff, it'll do all the extra stuff without you having to do anything. But yeah, and then it'll grab like the pertinent information from the video that you upload. It will put offences that you find on a
Awesome.
map.
I called a local bike shop the other day that has a very old, outdated website and asked them if they would be interested in a new one. He said yes, but please meet him in person since business is better that way. He was sold on it once I told him I was local. Your project is really nice.
Hey. Yeah, so like I just put these little speed camera icons on, so it tells you like where and who, what was captured, and you can drill into like what actually happened. And then it goes off to the government sources for tax, insurance, MOT, detects an offence using AI, or at least it tries to. So this one was manually overridden by an admin. What's the original detection? It couldn't find anything. So that's probably my fault, saying like I probably don't have an offence description for like parking entirely on a pavement. But yeah, I can upgrade that. This one was quite cool. So this was two I found last weekend. To show up. Refresh. There we go. So I tweaked this a bit. So at the moment you upload the video. I don't know why the frames didn't load here, but we could actually just try and extract them.
Very well thought out. Is this scanning the internet or using APIs?
Both. So tax and MOT is from an API. You can just request an API key from the DVLA. The insurance is from the Ask Mid database. That I'm web scraping because I don't have an API unless you pay like £800, which isn't going to happen. But yeah, I was like trying to get. At the moment, it just looks at the video and the frames from the video to like determine what happened. But I also tried to get it to draw bounding boxes around what it thinks the issue is. I haven't implemented that yet, but I was just like tweaking it. I think I posted one on here.
Irasakai says. Shoulder sling Sammy.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, it was the one-armed man.
Where the fuck did I upload that? Okay, maybe it wasn't on here.
Fundaking says. Oh damn, brother has been at this for a while. You have a CISP.
Yeah. I got that like 6 years ago now.
Am fresh into the industry.
Oh, nice. What part of it are you looking to get into? Ah, here we go. This is what I was after. So yeah, with Claude, you can get it to draw boundary boxes around what it thinks the detection is. So like it obviously finds the vehicle, finds the license plate, and then it identified the zigzag on the ground. And then it didn't succeed as well on the other one I saw. But I mean, it's the zigzags here, and for some reason it put this block here, so I'm assuming it just drew the box there instead. And it drew, this is supposed to be the red vehicle. Because it looks at the whole video, so it sees me walking past this car. That's how it got the license plate of the red one, because eventually I get there. And it's just tried to draw boundary boxes around like random frames.
So my background is IT technician, 2 years. Recently transitioned to this huge cybersecurity company in support engineering, fancy term for customer support but highly technical. I don't know what specialization I want to go down yet. Need to explore CDFs.
That's cool. Yeah, I started in IT. I worked for the local water company. So I don't even know if they're called this anymore. Bournemouth Water. Okay, that doesn't show anything. What on earth? Zoom in. Well, apparently it has a really shit map. But it's on like a massive roundabout where all like the fresh water's filtered. Yeah, started an apprenticeship there. Just did general IT, tape backups, like installing regulatory software for monitoring what the water company has to do. So yeah, I think help desk is probably the best thing you can do to start off in the industry. So you've transitioned into cyber. So I'm currently working in a security operations center.
Fundaking says. Where did you go from there?
So from there, I finished my apprenticeship, and they wouldn't pay me more than the apprenticeship wage when I finished it. So I was like, I don't want to be paid £12,000 a year anymore. Would you bump that up a bit? And they said no. So I just started throwing my CV at loads of recruiters, and then the first job I got off the back of that was for 28 grand. So I promptly told Bournemouth Water to get fucked, and then went and got another role.
Brother, I did an apprenticeship too and they didn't increase my salary like they said they would.
Yeah. Just quit and get another job. It's genuinely the best advice.
So I left.
So then I just did like random consulting jobs. So I worked for like a bank. I worked for like a hardware like service, so they would send me off to like,
You cut off there. Stream is buffering.
oh shit. Um, yeah, but I worked for like a hardware repair center essentially. So whenever you took your PC to PC World, they would send it to us to fix. So I would fix loads of random computers, laptops, and like all-in-one units, and then got bored of that, so I started doing point-of-sale repair. So I'd get called into like
It's good
KFC.
now.
I'd fix the KFC touch screens for not the fancy new like kiosks that they've got, but the old ones on the like behind the counter. I got to see the back rooms of several KFCs and never wanted to eat there ever again after that. So I got called into like newsagents to put more RAM in some of their tills and all sorts. But yeah, then I did a stint at British Telecoms, so doing lots of cabling for like the inside the exchanges, so just running loads of cables out to people's internet, providing so like to the endpoints for their homes. I did that just as like fiber was being introduced, so I got to do a little bit of fiber termination. Then I went to uni because I didn't want to do that shit anymore. Got a degree in software engineering and cyber. Got a job at a bank again doing cyber. And yeah, been there for like the last decade. So I'm now in the SOC doing lots of like engineering for the SOC analysts. So anything that they need automated, or if there's stuff they do repeatedly, we automate it to make it so they don't have to do it anymore. Or we make it more reliable or more scalable. Like, that's our job, is to do what an analyst would do, but at like some huge scale. Why is my fucking shit buffering? Could be my runner, actually. Maybe the job's taking up loads of juice. But hey, it passed. Right, cool. We'll merge that now. So this is the latest feature I added. Just does the insurance check, but because the insurance check prevents you from doing it, like I think you can do like 3 or 4 checks for your own vehicle. So I had to put it behind a fuckload of proxies to kind of counter-event that. Stop that job now. We're getting network errors. Is the stream still buffering? Or is it just Twitch? See if YouTube's alive. Yeah, YouTube's fine. Twitch is having a funny 5 minutes.
MSec says. Twitch rip? Web link.
Well, there we go. We'll get everyone on YouTube instead. We'll get everyone on. Yeah, Twitch is just dead. Weird. No, his stream works. Weird. Alright, yeah, Twitch is fucked. If we stop and start the stream. YouTube's still alive. Twitch is still dead. Weird. Alright, yeah, fuck it. Report playback issue. Video. Completely black. Doesn't load. Cool. Well, that sucks. Weird, it's showing my bitrate as being like 12,000. And it doesn't actually stream anything.
exe files, and then we'll patch specific exe files and patch particularly mathematical calculations code in those exe files. And this was another sleuthing exercise by Jags and Vitaly to figure out what are the exes that it's actually patching. And their top candidates that they identified were this LS Dyna suite, which is a powerful engineering simulation software that's used to analyze how materials and structures behave in various extreme conditions, like, let's say, nuclear explosions. And lo and behold, another think tank has actually published information that Iran has used this software in its nuclear program and to do its modeling. And then there was another program for open source water modeling and another Chinese construction and design software. And basically, when these executables load, it will patch up its math calculation code to basically introduce subtle errors in it, right? So that the modeling would produce wrong results, which would be really, really difficult to detect. So another kind of Stuxnet-like program that supposedly was hitting Iran back in the early 2000s. One thing I found really interesting, I'll give Jax credit for it because I was talking to him about it, is he said, this is a type of model that you can use in terms of tactics to actually target Chinese companies, AI companies, right? If they're doing distillations, well, if you can introduce subtle errors in matmul operations when you're doing training, boy, you can really ruin those models. So I thought that was an interesting thought experiment to see if, this might be happening even today.
Well, that'd be interesting because that'd be virtually impossible to detect, right? It's one thing to have an error showing up in a spreadsheet and then cross-referencing that, but the models are so dense and introspectable. Like, how would you even know that your weights have been messed with through this process?
Yep, and all you have to do is patch PyTorch.
So funnily enough, I remember like around the time that this malware was out there doing the thing, there was a lot of talk about how you shouldn't forget about the I in the CIA triad, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability triad. And, I sat through talks from people who were like adjacent to the intelligence community talking about how, someone could write malware that would subtly impact like spreadsheets and things like that and cause drama. And like, this was a big concern back then. And I guess I'm realizing the reason it was a big concern among people in the Five Eyes Alliance back then is because you were doing it to other people, which kind of makes sense. There's a bit of projection going on there, but it's a fascinating story. And, it makes me think, is this cyber war? I wonder, is that what we're calling cyber war? Now, look, moving from the I in the CIA triad to the A in the CIA triad, we got some analysis here, again from Kaspersky, looking at something they're calling Lotus Wiper, which is apparently the wiper that went after the state-owned petroleum company in Venezuela. Like back in December, there was a ransomware attack that kind of looked like a wiper attack. The Venezuelans blamed the Americans. We actually published a podcast in which we said that was a credible accusation. It's looking more and more credible, James. I think you took a look at this, and by the process of elimination, you're thinking, yeah, what else could it be than a US written wiper?
Yeah, that's right. Like between the Kaspersky write-up and Kim Zeta's write-up, which had a bit more detail, no one seems to be comfortable saying, aha, this proves that it was a US operation or a US ally operation. But it's very much a Sherlock Holmes, the dog's not barking kind of thing. This is a highly targeted malware. It had no financial incentive. There was no ransom or extortion element to it. It just straight up wiped things and it destroyed data really well. And there was a compiled version of it with the timestamps that match up, and it had a hard-coded string pointing to the PDVSA. So, what's the old saying?
It was Venezuelan dissidents, clearly.
Clearly, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, must be a Venezuelan dissident. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Moving on, we got one from Andy Greenberg and Matt Burgess over at Wired, just looking at how the North Koreans are using AI to automate a lot of their campaigns. I mean, this is something actually, James, you and I spoke about recently, not in the podcast, which is there was some incident and they talked about how it was an AI-enabled attack. And it's like, it's not going to be too long before putting that in a statement about some sort of data breach is going to be completely pointless, because they're all going to be AI-assisted, hacks. I sort of feel like it's going to become the new sophisticated attacker line that goes into a press release. The new sophisticated attacker is like AI-assisted. What are the nuts and bolts here, though? Real quick on this campaign that they've written up.
Yeah, look, the campaign itself is just run-of-the-mill AI stuff, and of course everyone's using it, and it did its usual thing of left some database credentials exposed, etc., etc. The same old thing that always gets these vibe-coded apps popped, and that allowed folks to go and rifle through and just see the tradecraft and the process behind this. What I did find interesting about it is I think they've kind of stumbled on an interesting vector here that allows them to get away with otherwise sloppy vibe-coded tools to do this, and that is, they go after their targets for this campaign here by posting as job ads. Now, we've all been through this. You get that job ad, you get the call from the recruiter, you want to start going in the recruitment process. You don't do that on your corporate laptop, right? You're doing that on your personal laptop, which doesn't have the EDR, doesn't have all those protections. So that's how they manage to get these otherwise pretty sloppy exploits onto a device. And then, these days, those devices have access to the things that they then can exfiltrate and get their crypto wallets and keys out of. So it's just kind of interesting that interview aspect, this contagious interviewer campaign, as they call it, hits the sweet spot of quite an unprotected device.
Yeah, they're not getting snapped by a kernel driver that Dimitri helped write 15 years ago, basically. I mean, we saw a whole thing on this on Twitter recently where someone walked through how they nearly got done, which was a LinkedIn account of some venture capitalist that they knew got compromised, and then they were like reaching out to them saying, hey, we should sync up. It's been a while, and they did the whole Calendly invite thing and waited a week, and then it's like, oh yeah, you're going to need to download this binary to join the call. Dimitri, you had something you wanted to add there.
Well, this just proves to me yet again that I said this 15 years ago first, that North Koreans are by far the most creative actor, right? They pioneer techniques that then get adopted by others. They were the first ones back in like 2009 to do disruption at scale. They were the first ones to do hack and leak with Sony. They did the Bangladesh bank heist and, the IT workers and everything else. So it's not surprising to me at all that they are the first ones to really popularize the use of AI. And of course, they've been doing this with IT workers and passing interviews for a while. Now they're using it for coding. What was interesting, I thought, is that the way the expel guys identify that they use Cursor and ChatGPT is by comments, because they were looking at the scripts and they saw, wait a second, there's a ton of comments here describing every step of this operation. That looks suspiciously like a vibe-coded piece of software.
Yeah, in English too. So
that's right.
Yeah, kind of obvious.
That is funny. Now, this next one I wanted to talk about with you, Dimitri, because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, because this story, it just keeps rattling around, right? There's been some sort of bug in Cisco ASA, and a threat actor, I think it was Chinese, was putting some malware onto these Ciscos. Now, CISA came along and said, hey, you got to patch your Ciscos. Okay, yep, cool. And people have patched their Ciscos, US government have patched their Ciscos, and now they're putting out advisories saying, hey, they're warning you that this Firestarter backdoor malware survives patching. And I'm thinking, what malware doesn't survive patching? That's not how you do incident response. I don't get this. It's mad. Why was there any expectation that patching a compromised Cisco ASA device was going to get you anywhere in terms of cleaning it up? What is going on?
Well, look, in fairness, right, there's no EDR running on these devices, so people kind of assume that they're clean and the only thing they have to do is patch them, because usually vulnerabilities don't actually exploit the device itself and to land malware on the device, but kind of use it as a pass-through to inside the network.
I've tried
in this particular case, obviously malware was installed, it had persistence, so it would not be removed by a patch. And look, we were talking about this before the show, like you have to reflash your firmware on these devices. You have to assume compromise, and as painful as it is to take firewalls offline, hopefully you have redundancy. You absolutely have to do this. Just patching it is not sufficient.
I just find it a bit maddening seeing headlines like US, UK authorities warn that Firestarter backdoor malware survives patching. I just think, what? Okay. Anyway. Okay, we're going to move on to the next story now, and Citizen Lab has published a report about a threat actor that is tracking its targets. They're physically tracking the physical location of their targets by exploiting vulnerabilities in SS7 and Diameter, which is another SS7-like protocol that isn't quite as awful. But it's the sort of stuff that you expect to be seeing happening on telcos. Dimitri, we'll get you in on this in a moment, but first up, James, you've had a look at this one as well. This report has resulted in the telco regulator in the UK shutting down the availability of something called global titles, which are used in these campaigns. Can you explain to us what a global title is and how it's used to stage these sort of attacks?
I can use my very fresh knowledge of this, because after reading the Citizen Lab report, I had to go and read up on a whole lot of topics. The write-up is exquisite. It's so good. But a global title is essentially, it's like a phone number style address with some metadata attached to it, and the complex and convoluted ways that these telco networks work. There's kind of a resolution process. It's almost like you could think of like it's a form of like DNS resolving down to the IP address, and then an IP address has to use ARP to resolve to the MAC address. Similar kind of multi-step resolution process for these things, but the point of using the global title here, I think, is actually to exploit that resolution, right? So they can essentially craft a global title coming from, I think there was only 3 or so candidate telco networks they were trying, but
if we do another
due to the way that those global title addresses get resolved, they're able to sort of kind of like poke at various points of the network and see how is this getting resolved, where does that traffic go to, and of course, the problem with these networks is they're insecure by default, really. It's built for interoperability between the telcos, not a high degree of security. And so people have bolted on firewalls to prevent a lot of this malicious traffic going back and forth. But what's interesting in this example here is the attacker is actually using lots of different steps where they basically say, I'll try this attack, see how it resolves, where does it get to, who blocked it? Okay, let's try something a little bit different. How does that get routed? Who blocked that? And it's like they're just incrementally building more and more knowledge about where the weaknesses are, because then they can funnel all the traffic they want to through that weak point in the network to get to the end subscriber that they're trying to surveil.
Now, when it comes to these global titles, who is supposed to have access to a global title? I'm guessing that's a telco.
Yeah, it's a telco, and they lease them out for other purposes as well. And that's what the UK has particularly
of course,
clamped
right.
down.
Of course, they lease them out to someone for some insane reason because it's the telco industry. Dimitri, you are actually an investor in Cape, which occasionally sponsors the Risky Business podcast, and that's because you introduced them to us when you invested in them. Right, I'm guessing you invested in them for kind of this reason, because they don't even
basically exploit that extracted location info, and would basically have the SIM jacker continuously ping you with the current location. So a lot of activity that's happening that most people aren't even aware of. Obviously, we have the on-device compromises that people are becoming more aware of, waterhole attacks and other things on Apple and Androids. But this is something that doesn't even impact your phone. It's done at the carrier level. So, without things like this report, we would really not know the extent of which this is happening around the world today.
And just the fact that malicious SMS can include those codes to make those actions happen, boy, it just makes you nervous about carrying this thing in your pocket when you know that that's actually, part of the protocol that can be done. It's an incredible read.
Turns out mixing data and code is bad in the mobile ecosystem as well.